This kind of going to be an overview on muzzle loading. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail, but there's a lot of sayings that came from weapons. Back in the Revolutionary days, you say you like if you bought something, you bought it lock, stock, and barrel. That's to do with the gun. You bought the lock, which is the mechanism, the stock, and the barrel. It's the whole thing. You bought the whole package. Also, during the war, everybody's heard the story, I gave it the whole 9 yards. Anybody know where that came from? You do.
How long the length of the...
Right, that's the length of the belt of ammunition in World War II fighter planes. 27 feet. So when the fighter planes came up there and they found a German or a Jap aircraft and they fired they emptied the guns, they gave it the whole 9 yards. And then another one, flash in the pan, that's from a flintlock. It flashes, but the gun doesn't go off. It looks good, but it doesn't work out. Kind of like Ryan Leaf and the Chargers, I guess. Anyway, definition of a muzzle loader. Pretty simple. It's a weapon that's loaded from the front, from the muzzle. That's why they call them front stuffers, muzzle loaders. They use black powder or a black powder substitute. Some of the newer muzzle loaders actually use regular standard rifle powder, smokeless powder, but I'm not going to be talking about that too much. They fire a single projectile. Now, the projectiles, I've got some examples here and I'll go over those in just a second. But as I said, the muzzle loader is comprised of three parts. The lock, which is the firing mechanism, the stock, and the barrel. I've got some pictures here of various types of muzzle loaders. This is a pistol. This is a flintlock. The flintlock, I'm going to pass these around too. It's got a hammer. The hammer you cock back and holds a flint. When you pull the trigger, the flint goes down and hits a bar that's got grooves across it. It's called a frizzen. The frizzen covers up what's called a pan. That holds your priming powder. So when you pull the trigger, the flint goes forward, hits this groove plate, causes sparks. The sparks go down into the pan, which sets off the priming powder, goes through a little hole into your firing charge. The gun goes off. There is a delay on those. To improve on the flintlocks, they came up with the idea of a percussion rifle. It's basically like a cap rifle. They have a little cap that goes over a nipple. The hammer is cocked. The hammer comes down, hits the nipple. The nipple fires into the pipe and goes into the powder firing charge. It's a much more efficient and secure type of a system. It works a lot better. You get a lot of flash in the pans with the flintlocks. The primers, the percussions, pretty much go off all the time. There's pretty much three kinds of muzzle loaders that they have nowadays. They've got the old, the real original flintlocks and percussions that people have. Then they've got the modern replicas. This particular one is one of mine. This is a Thompson Center Hawken. This is a replica, modern replica of a Hawken. This is a .45 caliber. It's got the set triggers. This is a side lock percussion. They also make this in flintlock. This is another modern percussion side lock. This is another one of mine. This is a Thompson Center. It's a Greyhawk. This is a 54 caliber sidelock percussion. This particular one has a slightly different ignition system in that it uses musket caps, which I'm going to get to in just a second. I'll show you the difference. It's a little hotter, fire, a little bit more powerful. This is my Thompson Center Omega. This is one of the new modern black powder muzzle loaders. It utilizes a 209 ignition system, which is a shotgun primer. They typically have a falling block where you shove the primer in, or they tip up and you shove the primer in. They're still a muzzle loader, but they're in line. And the reason they're called an inline is because the primer is right behind the firing charge, and when you fire it, the charge goes directly into the ignition charge. There's none of this bending around following a hole to set it off. Very powerful guns. Now, everybody talks about the accuracy of muzzle loaders. The old muzzle loaders were originally started out with like a musket, or no rifling at all. Then they came up and they got a rifled musket or rifle, where they started putting rifling in them. Typically they were shooting a round ball. Round ball, just a round lead ball with a patch. You pour the powder down the barrel, put this patch on the end of the barrel, put the ball on there, and then you use what's called a short start or short starter. It's a deal like this, because you can't shove that ball down the barrel. It's got a little indentation here where you put this on there and just get it started. Then you take this, smack it down the barrel about that far, and then you pick up your ramrod and shove it down the barrel the rest of the way onto the powder charge. Now, black powder is not weighed. It is measured. This is a powder measure that I use. You just pull the back out. It's got graduations on it that you set it to whatever charge you want. Typically around 100 grains of powder. Lock it in place. Take your powder, fill this up, close the top, dump it down the barrel, followed by your projectile. Now, as I said, the original round ball shooters, I know Dave's got one, a CVA kit, pretty accurate. They've taken a lot of gain with just the round balls, so they're pretty deadly. But they're originally about 1 in 60 or 1 in 66 twist. Then they started shortening them up when they came up with a better ball during the Revolutionary War called a mini ball. We use those today. And now we even use pistol bullets, rifle bullets in a plastic sleeve it's actually called a sabot, but everybody calls them sabots. And this, a sabot, is just a plastic sleeve that the bullet fits in. Pass those around. This is a card that I'm going to pass around. The top here is a round ball. The second is one of my hunting rounds, which is a 245 grain, 45 caliber Barnes all copper bullet, hollow point, that fits in a plastic sleeve or sabot. The third one down here is a modern mini ball, which was originally designed for the rifled muskets or rifles during the Revolutionary War. And the bottom one is a 250 grain Hornady 45 caliber pistol bullet that you can also put in a sabot and used in your rifles. Now, a 50 caliber rifle typically uses a 45 caliber bullet. The only 50 caliber bullet here is the mini bow. You want to pass that around? You can see that. As I mentioned earlier, there are several types of ignition. You've got the flintlock. I don't own one, and I can't bring it in here anyway, but that picture pretty much described it. There are three types of ignition, primer ignition for a muzzle loader. There's the original one was called a number 11 cap. That's a small one that fits over the nipple and fires. They're pretty reliable. My 54 uses a musket cap. It's the top one here. It looks like a top hat. It's about a triple charge, a lot hotter, and very definitely a better ignition system. And the bottom one is the 209 shotgun primer that's used for the inline rifles. Now, as I said, we use black powder and black powder substitute. I don't use black powder per se anymore, so I don't have any with me. But it's your Goex, your black powder. It's black powder. It's been around for years. It's very smelly. It's very messy. It works fine. But these are modern black powder substitutes. This is Pyrex RS, which stands for rifle shotgun. This is Pyrex Select, which is just a more refined version of this. It's more uniform granulation, and it's typically more accurate. This is 777. This is a little different. This is hotter. It's a cellulose-based black powder substitute, and it's typically a lot hotter, faster than the other two. The only trouble is it leaves what they call a crud ring. When you fire it off, it leaves a ring down at the firing chamber of your rifle, and it gets kind of crunchy. It's like granulated sugar, and after a while it's difficult to ram a second or third round in there after a couple of shots. So especially using 777, after you shoot these a couple times, you have to do a spit swab. You take just a clean patch, put it in your mouth, or dump water on it, put it on your rifle, swab it through, clean out your rifle, then run a dry patch through it, and then you're ready to go again. The latest powder is Blackhorn 209. This is a dream powder. It doesn't absorb moisture like the others do. After you have these around for a while, they absorb moisture and they lose some of their potency. This does not seem to absorb as much moisture or any moisture at all. You use less of it. It's more expensive, but it is hotter. And it does not crud your barrel up. I have taken my rifles out to the range and fired 20, 30, 40 rounds all day and never spit swabbed the barrel at all. Never had to clean it. You just shoot it, pour the next round, shove it down. The 20th round goes through down your barrel just as easy as the first one does. Now the granulations that are used in black powder, there's typically 3 granulations. They use an F designation, and all that is the size of the screen that the powder is extruded through. Double F powder, FFG, is the designation that you'll see. Double F powder is used typically on 45 caliber and above. Triple F powder, which is a little finer, is used on 45 caliber and smaller. And then the 4F granulation is a very fine powder that's used in the pan of a flintlock to prime the flintlock. You got bigger powder that they use for cannons and stuff like that, but I'm not talking about those. They also have, that come up in the last few years with pellets, which are, they look like wafers of compressed black powder, and they have, it's a different color because they got black powder, it's actually rocket fuel, but there's black powder on one side and the propellant or rocket fuel is on the other side. And it's got to be loaded into your rifle with the black powder down. If you don't, you're going to get a misfire. They're also subject to, if you ram the barrel, ram the rod down too hard, you're going to crush the pellet, and that can cause some problems. They're quicker, but as I said, all powders are measured by volume. 1 pound of powder contains 7,000 grains of powder. So 1 pound equals 7,000 grains. Typical hunting load is approximately 100 grains of powder. So you're going to get about 70 shots out of 1 can of powder. My hunting load's 90 grains, so I'm going to get a little bit more. How many do you, what's your hunt? 90?
30 on the 32.
Okay. Let's see. I went over the primers and the percussion caps. Now, all of those rifles that I have just happen to be Thompson centers. I got my first Thompson center as a thank you for a RV trip that I did for a gal. We were at the base camp, and she bought me she saw it in a sporting goods store in Colorado, and I fell in love with it, but the wife said, no, you can't have it. Well, the gal that was on the trip that we were shepherding on this bike race bought it for me as a thank you. That was the 54 caliber Thompson Center Greyhawk, and I figured that's going to be my elk rifle. The second one that I got was the 45 caliber Hawken replica, and I bought that from a guy that whose brother died down the street, and I got it from him. The Omega, the inline, was a rifle that I asked for. My kids gave it to me for my 70th birthday, and that's my hunting rifle. That's the one. I think most of you have seen it with me with the pig on the website. That's the one that took the pig at 59 yards right through double lung. He just gave him a real quick dirt nap on that one. That was with the Omega. Okay, the sabots. These sabots are manufactured of a plastic composite. Most of them are made by a company called MMP, which stands for Muzzleload Magnum Products in Arkansas. They make the best ones. They make probably 99% of the sabots on the market are made by MMP. They come in every size, every diameter you can think of. The ones that you buy, depending on the length of the bullet, the diameter of the bullet, the size of the bullet, and the tightness of your barrel. There is no standard diameter for a rifle. A 50 caliber can be anything. Thompson centers are notorious for tight barrels, thin. Others, CVAs, are bigger. So you basically have to try the different sabots and the different bullets to find out which one goes down your barrel the best. You don't want to have to beat one down the barrel, because that'll deform everything, and it's just too difficult. Yet you don't want one that just drops down. You want it to have some force, but something that you can shove down the barrel. And once you find that, you just pattern them and try them out. For example, the 50 caliber for the Thompson centers that I use, they have the 3-pedal easy. That's the name of the sabot. A 3-pedal easy, which is the smallest. Then you have the HPH 24, which is the middle, and the HPH 12, which is bigger. So depending on the barrel, if you got a very tight barrel, you'd use the 3-pedal easy, which is the smallest. Middle-sized barrel, the 24, and if you got a very large barrel, you'd use the 12. All I'm saying, don't get confused by the numbers and stuff and the nomenclature. You just have to try various sabots to find which one fits your barrel.
Good.
Okay, the loading process on a muzzle loader. As I said, the powder is measured by volume, not by weight, so you don't have to carry a scale with you out there on in the field. The first thing you do is find, there we go. You take your powder measure. Measure your powder, dump it down the barrel. The second thing you do is put your patch on the end of the barrel, followed by the ball or your bullet, whatever you're shooting. Then you take your short starter, hit it, shove it down this far, then you use your ramrod. Now, in the field, all the muzzle loaders, you see them on the movies, they all have this rod underneath the barrel. It doesn't have this on it. Now, I don't know why. This is all of the rods that you see on these muzzle loaders are full length all the way out to the end of the barrel. And that's what they look like. They're just hanging under the barrel. So after you shoot, if you're gonna reload, you got to load the powder, put the stuff in there, shove the bullet in there. Then you got to take a ramrod and ram it down the rest of the way. So you're going to take this thing out. Then you got to sit there and screw this thing in here like this. This is called a jag. Then you take it and you start shoving it down in stutter steps. If you start from the top, you're going to bend your barrel. So you start down here, just shove it a little bit, move up, shove it down, and then ram it all the way. You notice this is a little small. So most people use some sort of a palm saver. This is just a doorknob with a screw on it. But you have other ones that just cup over there and ram this thing down all the way. Yes, sir?
You said bend your barrel or bend the back?
I'm sorry?
You said if you do a full length,
yeah,
you'll bend your barrel?
No, you'll bend the rod.
Okay.
So this rod, this is the one I use in the field for a second shot. But I had this ramrod specially made. I cut it an inch short so that I could leave this thing on the whole time. So it's a lot quicker, saves a lot of time. Because reloading a muzzle loader is a little difficult. Now if you're going to load a saboted bullet, you just put the powder down there, and then you grab the sabot and the bullet together, put it on there, just put your ramrod on there, and start shoving it down there. That's all there is to it. There's nothing, no patches at all. The sabot is the patch. Now, if you need to make a second shot with a muzzle loader, they have what they call, it's a misnomer, speed loaders, because there's no such thing as loading a muzzle loader fast. It takes probably close to, well, you can do it under a minute with one of these. This is a speed loader. This bottom portion pulls out like that. The saboted bullet is put in, nose up, butt down. This is filled up with powder and closed. Your primer cap, if you're using a number 11, goes in here. If you're using a 209, which I do, goes right in here. So this whole thing, with the bullet, the powder, and the primer, goes in your pocket. So you shoot, tip your gun up, pop the cap, dump the powder in, take this, you just set it on the end of the barrel and hit the end. This just pushes it right out and shoves it down the barrel. Take your rod, and there's your primer. Put it in there and you're ready to go. You can reload a muzzle loader with one of these in, what, 30 to 45 seconds probably, something like that. Now, laws. The laws vary from state to state, obviously. California is one, it's liberal in some senses and very strict in others. First of all, they say a muzzle loader has to be a primitive weapon. You have to use primitive sights, no scopes. That picture I sent around with my Omega has a scope on it. I can't use that during muzzleloader season. I can use it during the general rifle season, but not during muzzleloader season. I would have to use one of the other two. They have regular sights, or in the case of those guns, they've got peep sights on them. Those are legal. Some states have bullet laws. It depends on the, you got to use a certain diameter and a certain length compared to the diameter, and they go all different ways. And you were telling me what, earlier, there's a state, Florida or something?
Pennsylvania, I believe, still only allows.
Okay, he said possibly Pennsylvania only uses flintlocks. I don't know, but you got to check your state laws. But the one thing, the biggest thing about muzzle loaders, it extends your season. You get an extra season. It's like archery season, then rifle season. You get a special muzzleloader season, and you can use the muzzleloader during general rifle season if you want to. I don't own a deer rifle. I got 3 black powder muzzleloaders, and that's what I use. We went deer hunting last week. I had my Omega, but it was during general season, so I can use it. As far as cost to shoot, 100 grain load, as I said, you get about 70 per can. You 50 to 100 grains, depending on the powder or projectile. 15 cents to 75 cents per shot, depending on the amount of powder you want to shove in there. The round balls, they're about $13 a hundred, 13 cents a shot. Conicals are about 75 cents a piece. Saboted pistol bullets, 58 cents. The saboted rifle bullets, these things right here, 24 bullets, I tore the price tag off. Seems to me it was about 25 bucks. So they're upwards of $1 a shot. That's just for the bullet. Primers are nothing, they're 4 cents. Anyway, people are talking about muzzle loaders. They don't think that they're very accurate. Some of these modern muzzle loaders are good out to 500 yards and beyond. My little Omega that I got, when I started shooting, I went through all of these powders. I finally settled on the Blackhorn and this Barnes. This is a 245 grain boat tail hollow point. There's the pattern. 3 shots touching at 100 yards. That's better than some standard rifles. The equipment that you're going to need if you get a muzzle loader rifle. First of all, you're going to need the rifle. You can use this ramrod that comes with it, but most people use what they call a range rod. This is a brass or bronze rod that I made up, very sturdy and really works well. You can even take it with you out on the hunt if you want to lug it around for a second shot. But if you're going to take a second shot, you know, the animal's going to be gone, so you can take your time and reload, and you can use this particular rod for a second shot. But you're going to want a range rod. Very easy to make up. They also sell them. As far as tools go, you're going to need what they call a jag. A jag is the device that fits on the end of your rod that fits whatever bullet you're using. This particular one is for a round ball. This particular one fits this bullet. I've got another bullet over here. This is the one I got the peg with. This is it's a blunter, much more blunt bullet with a much wider hollow point. This jag will not fit this bullet. You've got to get a special jag for this bullet. Another thing that you'll need is your short start, speed loaders, an empty pill bottle to throw in some black powder, just in case you run out of, I carry 2 of these. If you go through those, this is just extra powder in case you need it. You need a couple little devices to carry some extra primers. They just fit right in there, you can pop them right out. Just spare stuff. Now if you happen to load, let's just say you forget to put the powder in the barrel and you ram a patch and a ball down the barrel, obviously with no powder, you're kind of screwed. It's not going to go anywhere. So the old bullet extractor, this screws on the end of your ramrod. I don't know what, you can't see it, but it's a round guide, and it looks like a wood screw. You ram that down the barrel and start twisting your ramrod, and this screws right into the soft lead, and you pull the bullet right out. So that takes care of your bullet. Now you've got a patch down there, corkscrew type thing on the end of a device. Put that onto your barrel, on your rod, put that down the barrel, start twisting it. That'll pick up your patch, pull it right out. Fixes it. If you really get into trouble, this is a breech plug. Now this is for the Omega, and you can unscrew the breech plug on the Omega, and that way you can just knock the bullet right out from the other end. It opens up the back and it just goes right through. But that's about all you need. And then, like, this is spare bullets. This little device I made, it just holds extra bullets. So in case I use those too. Yes, sir.
A question, is that black horn, is that a non-corrosive powder? And the other question is, if you had to pick a caliber as being the most accurate, which one would you pick?
Okay, the black horn is not non-corrosive. There's no black powder substitute that is non-corrosive. But it is the most non-corrosive powder on the market today.
So what's the longest you would go after going to the range and cleaning your rifle? Do you always clean it that day, that night?
I do it within the next day or two, depending on what I'm doing. But you could leave it a week or two, and I wouldn't worry about it. It would clean up. But I wouldn't do that with the others, or especially with black powder. And black powder, that gets to be a mess, because the way they cleaned it, the way they originally cleaned the black powder, was to unscrew the nipple, put a cleaning rod with a cleaning patch in one end, stick the back end of the barrel in a bucket of very, very hot water, and suck the hot water in and out of the barrel and clean it out. very, very messy, and it's a pain in the butt.
What caliber would you say is the most accurate?
I don't know that there's any one. I think any one can be just as accurate as the rest. Most of the modern rifles that are coming out now are 50 caliber. You can get them up to 54 and 58, and probably even bigger than that. And you can get some smaller, like 45 and even 38. But most of the rifles that are made today, you'll find will be 50 caliber. Now, unless you're shooting a conical, the full-size lead bullet, that's a 50 caliber. The others that you'll be shooting will be about 45. The round ball will be 49, because the patch takes up the rest.
What about these pellet charges I shoot? You throw the pellet down there and then you throw your patch and your ball down?
Okay, the pellet charges are made in 30, 50, and 60 grain loads. They look like little wafers with a hole through the middle. They have a black powder charge on one side and it's actually rocket fuel on the other.
Oh, that's the one.
That's the one. And you mix and match the pellets to whatever load you want. So if you want a 150 grain load, which is typically the maximum load for most modern muzzle loaders, you'd use 3 50 grain pellets. If you want to use 100, you'd use 2. If you want 120, you use 260s. Now, the only problem with that is when you put them down there, if you use too much pressure to seat that bullet, you can crush those pellets. And once they break apart, you're going to get wildly erratic pressures and shooting. They're not consistent. The most consistent powder that you can use is loose granular powder, black powder, or black powder substitutes. But there's 2 reasons I would throw at you to consider muzzle loading. First of all, it's a ball. You get out there with a smoke pole and start shooting, and you're going to have a lot of volunteers that want to take a shot with that. They just love it, love to see that smoke. You know, bam, look, and they run around the side, look around that cloud of white smoke to see if they hit the target, and they're just fun to shoot. But secondly, they really expand your hunting season. They give you a whole nother season to go hunting, and they are deadly. So, I think that about covers it. Any questions? Yes, sir.
If you go hunting and don't take a shot, you've got a load in your gun. Obviously, you take the armor cap off, but
You do.
what do you do at that point?
Okay, good question. First of all, when you're transporting a black powder rifle, a black powder rifle is not considered loaded in California with a load with powder in the barrel followed by a bullet, completely loaded, as long as it is not primed. If you don't have a cap on the nipple or a 209 primer in the breech, the gun is unloaded. Now, the question was, how long can you leave it there? The best thought is, at the end of the day, you shoot it, you just fire it, blow it out. In the morning, put a fresh load in. Now, it depends on the humidity. Not so much with the blackhorns, because it does not absorb moisture like the old black powder or black powder substitutes do. So it's not so important. I've gone 2 and 3 days with the Blackhorn 209 where I don't have great, huge temperature changes. And also, another thing, these are little finger protectors that you buy at the drugstore. That's what they are.
You're right.
They're finger protectors. You have them. I have them in my. This
your wallet.
Yeah, in my wallet. This is called a possibles bag, and I have no idea why it's called a possibles bag, other than it holds everything that you could possibly want when you're out there hunting. This is all you have. You got this and your rifle, and you're good for the day. But anyway, we put that over the end of the barrel. It keeps out any moisture, anything like that. They used to use, during the Revolutionary War, they had a wooden stick with a cap on the end of it, that when they're marching with the rifles up, they could put that stick and the cap over the barrel, and that would keep the rain out. But this little finger protector is a lot better. And it's the right size, nice and small.
But you don't want to shoot the rifle with the stick.
Yeah! No, you got to dump the stick out. This thing you can shoot right, right over it. I had to unload my Omega last week. Rob and Richard and I were up deer hunting, and so at the end of the day, I fired it. We picked out a stick at about, it was not quite 100 yards, and I had that rubber tube cone right over the thing, fired right through it, hit the stick, no problem. It won't affect the accuracy of the bullet at all. You can also use black tape over the end of the barrel, but that's easier. Any other questions? Yeah.
Your first rifle, the one that the woman bought for
Right.
you, is your wife with that kid?
Yes?
Is she married?
Pardon me?
Is she married?
Yeah.
This is a little safety tip for people who have the older percussion sidelock. Is that back in the Civil War, they came up with this because they would sometimes ram 2 or 3 balls down there in the height of battle, they get excited. And what they would do is they would get a regular charge, they would establish their charge with the ball on top, ram it down all the way, and then mark off right at the edge of the barrel with a mark on the
Right.
ramrod, so that they, as a witness mark, so that they knew they didn't have more than one ball down there.
Right. Good, very good point.
More
If you'll notice on this rod right here, I've got it grooved with a hacksaw and marked. When I seat the bullet, when I seat a load, that mark is even with the end of the barrel. If I'm out there hunting and throwing rounds around and stuff like this, and all of a sudden that mark is up above the top of the barrel, I'm not going to shoot, because that's a double load. In a gun that has a very loose fit, yes it will. If it's got a normal or tight fit, typically no. But you could certainly put in, keep shooting. I've had that happen. Keep putting them in, it'll keep jumping it up. They also have CO2 extractors. It's got a little fitting on there with a CO2 bottle, and you put that over the nipple and give it a shot, and it just blows the powder and the ball and the patch right out the end of the barrel. That's cheating though, that's easy. Yeah.
When you're seating the bullet or the salmon, is there any indentations in the chamber where your load and everything is, or is it smooth all the way down and you're just pressing it onto your powder charge?
It's rifled all the way down, and you're pressing it onto the powder charge. You pour the powder down there. The back of the rifle is just sealed. You put the powder in there, and you just take the ball or the patch or the conical or the sabot, and it just gets rammed right down on top of the powder charge.
And is it a feeling on how hard you push it down, or do you how much pressure do you want to put on it if you're seating?
It's kind of a learning process. You give it you don't beat it down real hard, but you seat it firmly on the patch. Typically, I will leave, when I get down, when this mark is typically about this far above the end of the barrel, I do that in one full book, and that seats it down firmly on the powder.
So it'll stop eventually because the powder's not compressed.
That's right, it won't compress. And the basic thing is you want consistent, you want to seat it the same way all the time, as much as you can. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.